Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. This is the locker room. It's all about sports. This morning, it's Tega and Zibby. Tega, can you
Good.
unmute yourself,
I,
please?
I, I have muted myself. Good morning, everybody. Thank God it's Friday. All right. I hope you're sat. Where do we start from today? There's a lot going on. If you have money, you're probably in Monaco. The Monaco Grand Prix is happening this weekend. We'll touch a little bit on what's happening in America with the NBA. We'll talk about all the new coaches that are being hired. And people say there's no job anywhere, but look at people are getting hired every 2 market days. I've told you, become a football coach. If they fire you today, they will hire you tomorrow. That's one of the best.
And they'll pay you for being fired.
I'm not paying for being fired. That's one of the best jobs with great returns. So we'll talk about all of that and also the Ninja heroics in Atlanta. So we'll touch a little bit on everything today in the world of sports, including tennis. But before we do all that, Zibi, tell us, how can we be a part of the locker room this morning?
All right, we're streaming live on our YouTube channel. It's Smooth 981, so you can catch the live stream on there and post a comment. You can also send messages to us via WhatsApp 0809 440 981. And you can also tweet or X at Smooth 981. The hashtag is Locker Room 981. Tega, did you catch that?
Yes, I was like, excellent. I can't deal with you, Zibi. Cannot deal with you. All right. So now that you know the media is going to come to us through, let's take the stories, the headlines of the story, so we know exactly what we're running through today.
Okay. NBA playoffs. Luka Doncic. What? That's such a very
That's
interesting
the
name.
name.
Anyways,
Luka Doncic.
yeah.
Doncic.
Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving lead Mavericks to win in Game 1 thriller. Nadal faces Zverev at farewell French Open as Swiatek Osaka eye clash. Verstappen braced for difficult weekend in Monaco. Lookman hat-trick hands Atalanta Europa League title. Motta to leave Bologna ahead of reported Juve switch. And let's see. Paqueta accused of betting market yellow cards. Rooney to speak to Plymouth over managerial vacancy. West Ham name Lopetegui as a new boss.
And on that note, before we start to talk about all the people that had Wayne Rooney. I don't know who told ex-internationals that after playing football, the only thing you can do is become a manager. Because when Rooney's losing rate, he shouldn't even be aspiring to be assistant manager. But here we are. People are calling his phone to employ him.
Can he
It's
be
good
a
to play
pundit?
great football.
Does he have the personality to be a pundit?
He doesn't have to be a pundit. Go and own a business. Do
In
something
bakery,
else with your
maybe.
life. Leave this thing. Leave this football. Well, at least invest in a football club. Get a CEO and sit back and be collecting your money.
Hmm.
He doesn't need to be a manager, but we'll get to that story eventually. Let's start with what is happening at the NBA play.
All right, Luka Doncic had 33 points, Kyrie Irving had 30, and the Dallas Mavericks have a 1-0 lead after Game 1 thriller on Wednesday night in the opener of the Western Conference Finals.
Now, this one shocked me, this particular one, because I was like watching the Mavericks and the Timberwolves in this playoff series all through. I was like, these Timberwolves will physically destroy the Dallas Mavericks. They will out hustle the Dallas Mavericks. That's not what happened on the deal. They had, look, Timberwolves played. They had moments of brilliance. They had moments where they were physically dominating the paint and physically dominating the court. However, Dallas Mavericks also had their moments of brilliance, and it primarily came down to the two best guys on their team, Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, just playing their hats off and also out hustling the Timberwolves. In that particular game, the lead was changing every 2 seconds. 1 minute you come back, the Mavs are leading. The next minute is the Timberwolves. So momentum was swinging left, right, and center. I almost had a whiplash from how the momentum was swinging between the both of them. But two things happened on the night. They let Anthony Edwards hold on to the ball so much. At the end of the day, Anthony Edwards could only score 19 points. But they let him hold on to the ball. It was his support cast that they marked. And so, whilst Anthony Edwards couldn't bring his own points, the Dallas Mavericks had their own stars bringing their own points. Doncic scored about 33 points. Kyrie Irving scored about 30 points, and they won that game. The problem is, I don't think Kyrie Irving can consistently deliver 30 points a night every single game in this final of the playoffs. And that's where you know that the Timberwolves are going to come back. And I don't think that Anthony Edwards will continue being held to 19 points a game throughout the playoffs, throughout the finals. And so in that mode, it's going to come down to which team can outlast the other. And if you ask me, again, I still think there's still more fuel left in the Timberwolves tank than there is in the Dallas Mavericks tank, just basically because of the physicality of the Timberwolves. Those guys, they're not, I don't know how to describe them. Remember the Bad Boys? If you watch the Michael Jordan Last Dance, they touched briefly on that team, very briefly, the Isaiah Thomas Detroit team. Those boys were bad boys. I think Isaiah Thomas was the only basketballer there. The rest were wrestlers. That's all I can say about that team. Because they were always fighting something. But the only guy that was really smooth there was Isaiah Thomas. The Timberwolves remind me of that team. The fight in Timberwolves is a bit much for me to say that Dallas Mavericks are going to sweep through them. But again, this is the playoffs, and experience could just tip it for the Dallas Mavericks. However, I don't think that game 2 is going to go the same way that game 1 went. But the Mavericks have taken home court advantage by winning game 1. Now, in the Eastern Conference Finals, it's a completely different story. Remember game 1, Indiana Pacers lost it to lack of experience. Just a few rookie mistakes here and there towards the end of the stretch, and they were out. Game 2, kind of the same thing. The Celtics would build a big gap. The Pacers will close it up. And at some point, it looked like they were trading again momentum. But ultimately, the Celtics won this by 16 points. They completely dominated, especially down the stretch. So it's going to be tough with the Celtics and Pacers. I think the Celtics will come through that one maybe in 5 games. But the real fight is going to be in the Western Conference Finals.
All right. Rafael Nadal will face world number 4 Alexander Zverev in a blockbuster first-round match at his farewell French Open, while women's champion Iga Swiatek and fellow full-time major winner Naomi Osaka are on a second-round collision course.
All right, so the French Open draws came out yesterday, and boy, it was just wicked. Think about it. The first match you play in your farewell tour is against the champion of the last Masters on clay. So Rafa Nadal, that you would expect at least to have 1 or 2 matches before, people say goodbye to him. He's playing Sasha Zverev, the top one of them. Sasha Zverev, he could beat, but again, his body is not, his bottom line, he's not a spring chicken. So he can't always outfight the younger guys. And this is why I think this is such a tough draw for either one of them. Because if you're Sasha Zverev and you just won the 1,000 Masters, you need a moment or two, to dip your leg in the sea and wet it a little bit before you start fighting for anything. But your first match is against 14-time champion Rafa Nadal. So either way, it's a tough draw for both men. It's too tough a fight for the first round. But hey, the draws are what it is because of Rafa Nadal's ranking. He's always going to, come against these tough these kind of tough matches at the start. So it's a strange one, but I think for the neutrals it'll be interesting but for most tennis lovers, they'd have loved to see either one of Rafa Nadal or Sasha Zverev go a little further before the net. Also another huge battle, Stan Wawrinka and Andy Murray first round. I'm just like, why is this happening? You don't want this fool to say farewell. So those are tough matchups. But on the women's side, Iga Swiatek could face Naomi Osaka as early as the second round. If Naomi Osaka wins her first match, Iga Swiatek wins her first match, they're both going to clash in the second round. So tough one for both players, because I can bet you that Iga Swiatek does not want to face Naomi Osaka in the second round. That's too tough a matchup. And Naomi Osaka would rather not face Iga Swiatek in the second round. So yes, the French Open promises to be great. So just buy all your snacks ready and keep, because every matchup will be a hit back to back.
All right. Well, let us know your thoughts. The WhatsApp number is 0809 440 981. And you can also post a comment on our live stream on YouTube. Smooth981 is the channel. Padre Pio says, Alonso, we just have to maintain our winning mentality. At Demola, we don't do that here. Le Mao. All right. Verstappen is braced for a difficult Monaco Grand Prix weekend, aware that his rivals are beginning to mount a sustained challenge to his bid for a fourth consecutive Drivers' World title.
Well, they keep saying that Red Bull will struggle in Monaco, and I understand it. So Monaco is a street circuit. Red Bull's dominance really down the stretch has been massive. So even when teams like McLaren has closed the gap just a little bit on pace, once they get down a straight, Red Bull is always just faster. But Monaco is a street circuit, and so there's so many twists and turns and bends, and it's crazy. So that advantage they gain from the streets will not really count in this one. However, Monaco is also a tough track to overtake on. So if Max Verstappen uses his pace to put a very good qualifying performance and he can get pole position, it will be hard for them to overtake him. So as much as they say Red Bull is going to struggle, they're like, if you have a good Saturday, chances are you will have a good Sunday, barring any reliability issues. So stop trying to make this thing look exciting. Your car is the fastest on the grid. It was made for you. And apart from the one reliability,
Tega, can't hear you. No.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so apart from, I'm saying, his car is the fastest on the grid, and the car was made for him. So barring any reliability issues, I don't think there's anybody overtaking him at the end of the day. So I think ultimately it will come down to how Red Bull qualifies, and Max Verstappen always has a good day. So with the pace of their car, with the speed of their car, he can get into that pole position, and it will be hard for any team. All you need to do is place your car in the right places in Monaco Grand Prix, and nobody's touching you. So good Saturday equals good Sunday. Again, barring any reliability issues. So of course, McLaren will be licking their lips thinking that, okay, in the corners we are faster. But because of the way the circuit is, your speed may not count for much because overtaking is not great at Monaco. And if you continue staying behind the car in front of you, it can affect your tires. At the end of the day, you don't have much to even do the overtaking, even when you catch up. So yes, Red Bull will be skeptical about, the level playing field of Monaco. But I guess once they do a good Saturday, Verstappen should leave us alone. He's winning it. He's winning it already. So but let's see how it goes. Practice sessions in today, and then we'll know exactly where all the cars stand from Red Bull to Ferrari, and well, even Mercedes with all their struggles. We'll see exactly where they stand by the end of practice sessions.
All right, still listening to the locker room on Smooth 98.1. Stay with us. The conversation continues on the other side.
What happened to my mic?
I don't know what's going on, but there's a slight challenge. I've just, you know what happened before we went on?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's happened twice right now. So I'm trying to sort it out. I've sent a message to Sam.
Okay. Okay. Let's see how it goes from there. So sorry.
Yeah. Like, ugh. Hmm. See what Sam says. At least, thank goodness, this one is back up. So
Don't worry to come back. We'll just manage ourselves to the end of the show.
we need some space, give me some elbow room. Do, 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 do. Do, do, do. We need some space. Give me some elbow room. Do, 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 do. Okay, Tega. It's the locker room on Smooth 98.1 Tega and Zibby. It's all about the sport this morning. Keep in touch, get in touch. Tell us what you're thinking. 0809 440 and 981. Tweet at Smooth981 or just post a comment on the live stream. Hi. Yeah, that's my camera on there. I can see you.
All right. So can we run to what we did? You know how it is now. Nigerian footballers invented
Ah,
football. Can we run to that
absolutely.
story very
Yes,
quickly?
indeed. A stunning Ademola Lookman hat trick handed Atalanta the Europa League title on Wednesday. This is just the second major trophy in their 117-year history after a 3-0 win over Bayern Never Losing that ended
I'm
the German champions' remarkable unbeaten streak.
I'm telling you, when the end came, you know, they say the higher you are, the greater the
The
fall.
fall, yes.
The fall was such a thump. I would say this on the day. Um, Atalanta got their tactics perfect. They got it right. And here is the thing that happens. You know, if you watch the Serie A, because a lot of people don't really pay attention to teams in the Serie A apart from certain ones that they know their name, like the AC Milans and the Inter Milans and the Juventus. But if you watch the Serie A, this is how Atalanta has been destroying teams. You know, they're very stingy in the midfield. They build up slowly, but by the time they get to the final third, it's one of two touches before they take the ball and put it in the back of the net. So completely different Atalanta team. And so the Atalanta team was um, stepping up to the plate on the day, and they absolutely dominated from start to finish. They rushed Bayern Leverkusen. So Bayern Leverkusen were there doing their slow build up, you know, and the confidence in the fact that they always came back. They didn't really waste their time. Even when Ademola Lookman scored the first goal, it was the way the players were just like, we always come back now. Last 20 minutes of this game, we'll come back. That's how, so they had the right mentality. They just didn't have the right tactics. Pot of soup is not only leaf that used to cook it. So, you know, Alonso was like, we're going to use the right mentality of the day. But the right mentality is not the only ingredient you need to win. Because even when Ademola Lookman scored the first goal, they're like, bring the ball out. We'll still come back. There was just
Uh-huh.
that the way he was arranging his team, the way the footballers were showing like, we're about to do what we did to other teams. but they just weren't allowed to get into gear in that game. Atalanta forced them to make an extra pass. Atalanta allowed them to have the ball in the places where they were not dangerous. So at first they were shooting from outside the 18-yard box, but they were not really making that much inroads. So they passed the ball brilliantly in the midfield. Atalanta was like, you can have that. But in and around the 18-yard box, Atalanta locked it down. And then on the counter, it was not, I won't say Atalanta were brilliant on the counter. I would say it was Ademola Lookman who just kept finding his space. Because remember, the first goal, he actually ran from the back of the defender to the front of the defender to put the ball in the back of the net. The second goal, he dribbled one or two people, put the ball in the back of the net. Third goal, he took his shot as soon as he got his shot. It was quick decision making and Ademola Lookman's brilliance that got Atalanta the 3 goals. But defensively, Atalanta had planned how to lock down Bayern Leverkusen. So yes, they had the right mindset. They kept saying, we're going to come back. Even 2-0, they were still doing come back it's on, come back it's on. By the time the match they get to the 80 something minutes, come back they looked like it was going to come back at all. So it was a tough night for Bayern Leverkusen. I don't think they got over the shock that they lost by 3-0 when they finally lost the match. But congratulations to Atalanta, great one. And this one now also means that because Atalanta won in the Europa, they now get an extra spot in the UEFA Champions League. So even if Roma did not qualify via the competition on the pitch, they are now qualifying via the merit system of the league. And so Atalanta winning the finals means that Europa can go to the UEFA Champions League. Roma can go to UEFA Champions League. And that is what they fired Jose Mourinho for. They fired him because they weren't sure he would make the UEFA Champions League. And now they've made it. So nobody would check the details. Everybody would just say he was fired and they made it. But the truth is, it was Atalanta that won that made Roma.
Wow, that's a lot of calculating.
It's crazy, but yes, that's what eventually happened. So tough loss for Bayer Leverkusen. Yes, you can say they had a brilliant run in the season, but I'm saying in a finals game, they couldn't really compete.
Did they get complacent?
I think they just kept that confidence in we're always coming back. They had it after the first 2 goals. I was like, you can't be that cocky. You should be confident, but you shouldn't be that cocky. But hey, I guess reality check now. They'd be better for it.
All right. Do you want to read some messages?
Let's take some messages.
Okay. Let's see. This one comes from Abiodun. Abiodun via YouTube says, Lookman, when Ademola realized Leverkusen were still unbeaten, he said, hold my water. Padre Pio says, finally, Leverkusen lose. Now they can play without protecting the unbeaten thing. On the day they looked tired, though, boys looked lethargic. Chimobi Victor says, congrats to Atalanta for lifting the Europa League. They really deserved it as they brought their game to the table. I'm happy for Ademola Lookman for giving me a birthday gift today as I'm a year older. Oh, happy birthday, Chimobi Victor. Wishing you all of God's blessings. Metro Central says, Atalanta did great. Xavi Alonso underestimated the Atalanta team to start with. Gasparini started his best attacking talent in the first half and it paid off. Padre Pio says, Alonso, okay, I already saw that one. But let's go on to WhatsApp. Mohammed says, Tega, you make a compelling point on the Mavericks, but this same team should not even be in the conference finals. The underdog tag gives them an edge of the dark horse. I still believe it will be a Celtic versus Mavericks final, just like how the Miami Heat got to the final last year. Taya says, congrats to Ademola Lookman, aka Mola, after delivering a spectacular performance against Bayern never losing. British media want to whitewash it and remind us he didn't make it underperforming Everton. Shake my head. Thank God he's already playing for Nigeria, otherwise he'd be going to the Euro with England. If company is being monitored by Bayern, then Wayne Rooney wanting to coach Plymouth isn't a surprise. I want to see who Chelsea appoints because I can do the job. Yeah, right, Tayo.
Everybody's just looking for a job.
I
would say though, at least Vice Company took a team from the championship to the Premier League. And yes, they were relegated, but he had actually won something. What has Wayne Rooney done? That guy is bottom of the food chain when it comes to managers. So I don't know why teams keep. Anyways, let's take some stories because we're almost out of time before we take some more messages. All right.
All right. Next story is about Motta. Thiago Motta will leave Bologna at the end of the season. The Serie A club said this yesterday after a remarkable campaign that has attracted the attention of Juventus.
I would say this. So Juventus had to fire their coach. I remember why Juventus fired their coach. It was not necessarily footballing reasons. So they had won the Italian Cup, and then the guy now went off on everybody, especially one journalist like this. He was like, "You, I will deal with you. I know where you live. I will deal." And I know Allegri. Allegri, he has a quiet appearance, but there's been whispers that Allegri is part of the mafia.
Wow.
Not true, just rumors that the way he behaves sometimes, like this guy is part of the mafia. You can't be this like this and not be part of the mafia. So when he started making all those threats, everybody was like, "You're never beating these allegations. you are you are never beating these allegations." But it was a horrible outburst, and ideally he'd be disciplined. Of course, Juventus were like, so again, Juventus had an issue with the fact that they were not doing that. At one point in time, they were close to competing for the Scudetto, and then they fell off. So they had already started being skeptical about his results on the pitch. But when he was, winning, he qualified for the UEFA Champions League, and then he went fine the Italian Cup. He now eventually won it. It was something that they could say, "Okay, can we hold out for one more season?" But that outburst was mad. And so they fired him for that. Now, Thiago Motta, on the other hand, has had a brilliant season with Bologna. Nobody would have expected that Bologna would finish that high up in the Italian Serie A, qualifying from competition for the Champions League spots. Not like Roma that is qualifying because somebody else won. Their neighbor won and Roma qualified. That one is different. This one, Bologna, by their performance on the pitch and by their results, qualified for the Champions League. So a small team doing that with that kind of coach, of course, will get everybody to look at you. And it was not just a one-off. His build up, his progress started from last season, came to fruition this season. And they don't know where they would have gone next season. But Juventus was like, let's snap up this young coach, probably give him a long-term contract, and then let's see how it goes. So he says he's not continuing with Bologna at the same time that Juventus say they are looking for a coach. So people are putting two and two together to say, okay, he must be wanting to move to Juventus. And there's nothing wrong with moving higher up. Alonso may have decided that he's going to spend one more season at Leverkusen. That's Alonso's choice. Thiago Motta is like, while we are here, now that they want me, let me let me aspire to greater. So if Juventus can get him, that'd be fantastic. And there he has a big team and he can fully express, his tactical genius if there's any. And if he's just one of those big fish in small pond, it will be revealed when he does move to Juventus, or if he does move to Juventus. But yeah, that's what it is. He's a brilliant looking young coach, and Juventus are rebuilding. So let's take him.
All right. West Ham midfielder Lucas Paqueta has been charged by the FA for allegedly getting booked deliberately for the improper purpose of affecting the betting market.
This is just crazy. They're catching players for placing bets. They're not catching you for another level. So this time it impacted the integrity of the game. They are alleging that because of bets, he decided to collect a yellow card so that the bet will enter. I don't know how they say it in bet language. You know how it is. The odds will enter. And this is a very grave challenge. And this is really sad because Paqueta had a really brilliant season and there were so many teams, big teams looking at him to get him in the off season. But if he has these charges, he already puts people off. And then if he is eventually found guilty, that's a completely different kettle of fish. The suspension should be longer. So I think it would have dented his chances of making greater opportunity. Again, I know that there's a lot of money in betting, And this level of betting is a lot of money. But what my mother used to tell her, her when she has a serviceman come to the house with something, you can't be collecting all your money at once. Collect it small, small. It's better for it's better for you to be coming back to do repairs than for you to say, I'm going to collect money once and then they don't call you again because they're too pricey. And that's what footballers need to learn. What's all this? Let me collect big money. If he moves to a bigger club, won't he get more money? Why is he doing this? Throwing his life away on bets. But it's still allegations. There have not been any confirmed. They haven't judged him. They haven't found him guilty yet. So let's just hold out hope that he's not guilty. But sometimes when they finger you in these things, you are likely guilty.
All right, let's take a few messages. Let's see. Okay, let's go on to WhatsApp. AY from Anuri says Bayern Leverkusen weren't focused on winning. Instead, they came to man. I see what you did there. Big E from Ketsu says Tega, Bayern never losing was unbeaten on so many games, but when Bayern Leverkusen met Atalanta and Ademola Lookman, Bayern lost. They lost in grand style. It took a Yoruba man to break Bayern's juju in grand style. Ibukun from Ketsu says Rooney's pundit for the Euros on Sky or BBC. On Bayern one day monkey go market, go come back. Shame on Daily Mirror for calling Lookman an Everton flop. What? Well, I mean, it's Daily Mirror. What do you expect, really? And
exactly. Why do people look at those newspapers?
Rags. It's the weekend, everyone. Let's aspire to Maguire. Grateful says, hi. Ademola Lookman passed the audition for a move to a bigger club. His goals gave prime Sergio Aguero vibes. 2024 CAF African Footballer of the Year awaits him. One last message. Larry from the abroad says, there is nothing wrong with aspiring for higher roles, but some higher roles will set you up for a massive fall. That's how I head Bayern wants company. Chelsea wants McKenna. Did someone say Lampard? Potter, Ole, Eric Ten Hag, question mark.
They might as well just come for me at this point in time since they're picking any and everybody. All right. Wow. On that note, it's going to be a great sporting weekend. Get your popcorn ready. Get comfortable because there's the NBA playoffs, there's the French Open, there's the Formula One, and there's football. So on that note, have a great weekend. See you back on Monday.